Okay, we are ready.
Okay. All right. So let me start out by saying hello and introduce myself for a little bit. My name is Mark Forman. I'm originally from New York City in the United States. I've been in Taiwan for a long time. Actually, I've probably been in Taiwan longer than all of you guys. I've been here for 33 years.
Wow.
So the reason I ended up in Taiwan was when I went to school at the University of Arizona. I was originally planning on studying pre-law, probably going into the legal profession. But along the way, I decided that wasn't something I would probably like so much. Not so much because I didn't think lawyers make good money or there weren't opportunities, but I felt that maybe being a lawyer wasn't the thing that would make me happy. So around that time, as I was in school at the University of Arizona, which is in Tucson, Arizona, for those of you that probably don't know, that is in the southwestern United States, very close to California and just above Mexico. So I started taking some classes just for my own interest. One of them was Chinese poetry in English. And after taking that, I had this crazy idea. I always liked languages. I wonder if I took Chinese language, maybe at some point I would have a better opportunity and understanding of Chinese poetry if I could read the poetry in Chinese. So I started taking Chinese language in school, and that was very fun and exciting for me. That was at a time where the United States and mainland China had just reestablished a formal diplomatic relationship, which means, of course, that Taiwan got out of the United Nations at that time. I don't know how much you guys are familiar with that history. I'm sure you all know that Taiwan is not a member of the United Nations now. How many of you would like Taiwan to be a member of the United Nations?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So hopefully Taiwan will get reestablished in that community, not because maybe the United Nations is the greatest thing per se, but I think Taiwan should have a seat at that table because I think Taiwan is a qualified and good global community member. So anyway, that's my beginning with Chinese studies. I had a lot of experience with Chinese people, eating Chinese food, etc. growing up in New York City. Many Taiwanese friends always say, "Oh, Mark, do you like Chinese food?" And I laugh because I've been eating Chinese food for as long as I can remember. Probably we would eat Chinese food at least once a week when I was a little kid, and as I got older, probably more often. So anyway, the main reason I did come here was after finishing my studies at the University of Arizona, just like a lot of you guys studying English, it's not so easy to progress a lot with English if you're not in an environment. That's why many, I think, Taiwanese students will end up going to school maybe in America or maybe in the UK or Australia or Canada, because it's really helpful to have that environment to support your further study in that language. Obviously, you guys have an environment here in this class with the teacher Dan. That helps, but you know, what I was thinking was I wanted to come to either Taiwan or China because I wanted to have the opportunity to really work on my language skills and gain fluency. So at that point, I decided to come for at least 2 years, thinking that's probably what I needed to help me along. So that was back in 1987. And around 1989, I was doing well with my Chinese, I thought. The feedback I got from Taiwanese friends was that, yeah, you're definitely making progress. And so I felt like I want to continue with that. Around that time, I know this is an international trade class, so let's get into the international trade aspect, okay? So I had been initially working as a part-time Bushiban English teacher in Taipei. That was okay. It introduced me to a lot more young Taiwanese people, get a better idea about what you guys are going through, your educational system and such. But really what I wanted to do was to be back in business because I really like business. So around that time, I met someone, the general manager from a big American company that worked in fishing rods. How many of you know what a fishing rod is? Can anyone know? Okay, do you know what it means to go fishing? Like you go down to the water and you want to go catch a fish and you reel the fish in, and if you catch it, then you can take it home, cook it, and eat it. So do you have an idea what I'm talking about now for fishing, a fishing rod? Yeah? Okay. So can someone tell me in Chinese how you say fishing rod so I know that you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's right, okay. So anyway, yeah, I was working for a big American company in Tanzi that made fishing rods. And this was my first experience working in a factory. And let me tell you one of the early major ideas that I got, I guess like major clarity. Before I came to Taiwan, okay, keep in mind, this is back in 1987. If you asked me about Taiwanese goods, Taiwanese manufactured products, what do I think? I would have one answer. Cheap stuff, okay? Just very cheap, maybe cheap fans, just cheap electrical devices. Not good, but just cheap. You know, maybe you use it for a few months and it goes bad and you throw it away, but it doesn't matter because it's cheap. Well, when I came to Taiwan and I went to work for this American factory, I found out how I was really not very well informed. What I said is not wrong, but that's not the whole story. And actually, when I came to Taiwan and started working in that American factory, and I started realizing how many quality Taiwan products there were, and the reason why a lot of people don't know that is very simple. Let me give you an example. I'm working this American factory, so we have the product. I'm looking at the fishing rod. It's made out of carbon fiber, which is, you know, really high-end and state-of-the-art of the day. Now, it's an American company. The name of the company is Berkeley. So it's an American brand, so everyone thinks, oh, Berkeley, that's American. Same thing I thought. But what you don't think about, and if you look at the product in very small letters, it says made in Taiwan. And once I saw that, I'm like, wait a second. These are quality products, and I start learning about all these other American companies, like making tennis rackets and making bicycles and making other products, and they're designed in America, and the brand is American, but in fact, they're produced in Taiwan. So that really opened my eyes up to what is going on here in Taiwan, and to realize that, hey, there's a lot of manufacturing technology and know-how here. There's a lot of people that are becoming more and more qualified as engineers and maybe also as designers, and also to support that, becoming more and more qualified in English language skills, in international trade skills, because what good does it do if you make things and if you can't sell them? If you can't provide service and information to people, they're not going to buy your things. So I got here at a time where the Taiwan economic engine was really reaching, you know, probably highest point. The stock market in Taiwan was about the highest point at that time. So it was a very interesting time for me, and also a very interesting experience because I had never worked in a factory before and had no idea what factories were like. And our factory, I'd say, probably had about 350 people. So for, you know, it's not a huge factory, but for Taiwan, especially Taichung, well, people tell me, Mark, that's a pretty good sized factory, you know, for Taiwan. And actually, some of you may know the location of this factory isn't in Tanzi. I mean, some of you probably know a very big company called Xiping. Okay? I think it's what, Xiping, I don't know their full Chinese name, but I know their product is semiconductors, 半导体. So anyway, that factory in Tanzi, Dafeng Road, is our old Berkeley factory. They sold it to Xiping, so it's still a great location, a big factory, obviously now doing high-tech products and doing fishing rods. So anyway, that was my first exposure to manufacturing, certainly my first exposure to manufacturing in Taiwan, and also, well, my second exposure to international trade in Taiwan. My first exposure was, I mentioned I was teaching in a bushiban up in Taipei, but actually that started because my first job in Taiwan was actually working in a trading company in Taipei. And the way I got that job was on the airplane ride over, I was sitting between two American businessmen. They were together, and we were all talking. And they said, "Well, Mark, what are you going to do in Taiwan?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure yet. I want to go there to work on my language skills. I know I could get a job teaching English. All my friends told me that's very easy. There's a lot of English jobs available. Keep in mind, back in 1987, Taiwanese families were having more children, so there's a lot more, schools were a lot busier, bushibans were booming. I mean, especially in English, there's a big, big demand. I mean, I know there still is, but then it was even bigger. And so, but they said, "Well, Mark, you speak Chinese, right?" I said, "Well, yeah, I studied Chinese and I can speak some." They said, "Well, our trading company could use a guy like you. Let us introduce you, and maybe you can get a job there." And so, sure enough, they did introduce me to their trading company partner, and within 2 weeks of my getting to Taiwan, I did have a job. So I was working during the day at this trading company in Taipei. My first exposure to international trade in Taiwan, and so my first experience, I used to go to, they were a member of some organization that would give them leads, that would give them information. "Oh, this person from Australia is looking for this product, they would like to talk to somebody," this kind of thing. So actually, one time I met with a guy from Singapore, and he's overseas Chinese, and we were talking, I forget the product that he was interested in, and he was talking to me, and he was asking about this product, and so I said, "Oh yeah, no problem." He says, "Now wait a second. In Taiwan, when someone tells me no problem, they all say that, and as soon as they say no problem, I start to worry." So that was my first exposure with someone saying, 一听到台湾朋友说没问题，就是怕有问题. So anyway, that was my first experience in trading in Taiwan. I started in the English language cram school at the same time, and then of course I came to Taichung to work in the American factory. So in the meantime, this is a long time ago, what has happened? I worked for one other factory before I started my own business. I worked for a Taiwanese factory that made carbon tennis racket mold tooling. Do you know what I mean by mold tooling? Do you something that is molded? Does anybody know? Not really? Yes, maybe? Okay. Basically, let's take a simple thing. We just had a holiday, very famous holiday, Moon Festival, right? So the traditional cakes are what? They're called a moon cake, right? And if you ever see grandma or some old lady, some old person, so what they make that is you take the eggs and you take the flour and you mix it all up, right? And it's soft and messy. And now you want to make it pretty and look good, so you take it and you put it in a mold. And you put the two parts of the mold together and press down, press it, and then take it up, open it, and now you take the moon cake out of the mold, okay? So there are many products like plastic and other materials that need to be molded under pressure. And so the carbon tennis racket is the same thing. It needs to be molded under pressure. And so the factory I was working in was doing these molds for carbon tennis rackets. So all the big brands we had as customers, Prince, Wilson, Dunlop, you name it, all the Yonex, big Japanese company. We did tooling. What else? Yeah, all of Yamaha. We did tooling for all of them. So that was another good experience for me, also working with a very technical and engineered product, okay? So from that, I got to see going about, I knew that there were trading companies, I met a lot of people from trading companies. Does everyone understand what a trading company is? Yeah, some of you maybe have parents or friends that work in them. I mean, it's real simple. It's basically, you're buying and selling. I mean, you're probably not making anything of your own. It's just a form of business, and it's, basically international kind of buying and reselling. And so what I saw was that there were a lot of local people here that were doing well. A lot of them didn't really know the products so well, didn't really understand the technical issues so well, but because they had English ability and they dared to go and do it, they were doing okay, and so in some cases really good. And so I felt like, okay, well, obviously my English is great because I'm an American, You know, my Chinese is not as good as you guys, but it's good enough to communicate with you guys, and so I could, you know, I could cover this side of the communication. And so, being here, I felt that I have a pretty good service attitude and background, so let me try. And so that was about, I want to say 1994 when I got started with my own business. And also that year my son was born. So, and one other thing that was very special that year. So started my own business, my son was born, which is the best part, the best thing. And then also the internet really started to take off in 1994. Because before that, the internet existed, but it was like for governments and maybe some schools, but your average person, there was no such thing as email and no web pages or anything like that. And around 1994 is when all of that got started. So I was one of the first people in Taiwan, certainly one of the first people in Taichung that had my own homepage, that had my web page, that had my own email. I would talk to people about this, and I'm like, what? What is that? You know, and it's hard to think of that now with everybody having one of these things. And I'm sure you guys do. Everybody's got one of these, right? It might not be, there it is. Might not be this brand, it might be another brand, but everybody has this, so you don't even think about it anymore. I mean, the idea, you know, truthfully, what do we call this, guys? What's the English name for this device?
iPhone.
Well, it is, yes, that's a brand, it's an iPhone, so the generic term is a smartphone, right? But you know, so what's making it smart? Is it really a phone? Is the phone the main thing about this? Is that what we use it mostly for? Are you usually talking on it or doing other things?
It's how you use it, it's what makes it.
Yeah, how do you use it is my question. It's really a pocket computer, isn't it? I mean, you could do anything that you could, I mean, you could pretty much do anything with this that you could with a laptop or a tablet. I mean, it's a computer, and it's amazing if you think about it, because like when you know, before I was born, the early computers, I mean, let's go back to like your grandparents' age. You know, they had some computers back then, and they were probably as big as the room that you're in. And maybe the only thing they could do is add up some new, you know, some mathematical calculations, and it might take half a day for the thing to run. Now, we've got these little tiny devices that can do like maybe 1,000,000 times the things that those old huge supercomputers can do. So that's how technology works. It keeps on improving and shrinking the tools to get the devices built so that the communication can work in that way. And that's why they're so popular and making so much money. So for you guys, I'm sure you can never picture not having a phone. I mean, did any of you have a phone before junior high school? Did some of you have a phone before junior high? But I'm sure probably by junior high school, maybe certainly high school, you all had phones, right? You're on the bus, you know, you've got something to do the whole time, you're never bored. You know, you're always holla holla or whatever. So, okay. So yeah, that's the day and age that we live in. Obviously, we're talking, you know, this way now. I mean, you don't know where I am. I'm not very far away. Actually, I'm not far from Tanzi that I was just talking about, but actually I'm in Beitun, and I've been to your school before. I've guest taught at your school before and talked about some of my experience in trading. One thing I want to mention, because I know we're limited on time and hopefully we can get a few questions. Obviously, all of you know about COVID-19, right? I mean, I'm just using the English word. Of course you know about it. I'm sure you all know the English name by now. Obviously, Taiwan has done really well on protecting us, and that's a good thing. It's hard to believe because I've been back to the United States a couple of times, probably once before it really hit there or before people knew it had reached there. So that was back in like February of this year, okay? And then again, more recently, back in around August. And to be honest with you, it's like night and day. It's like two different worlds, okay? Because here in Taiwan, we're all living a pretty normal life. I mean, sure, we still put masks on if we're gonna get on the bus or the train or get on an airplane or go to a hospital. We're all gonna wear masks. I mean, some of the students are wearing masks, and that's fine. You know, me being in Taiwan so long, I'm already used to people wearing masks anytime, you know? But the first time I went back to the US, once COVID started, and I had the mask on the airplane the whole time. As soon as I get to the United States, I take the mask off right away, because I know Americans are not used to seeing people in masks. It freaks them out. They're like, what is like, a mask is like for an operating room. It should be in a hospital. You should not be wearing a mask. I said, that's crazy. What's going on? So now, of course, it's a whole different thing. But unfortunately, like in America, probably because of the size and maybe some political reasons and otherwise, the COVID situation is not being handled probably as good as it can be or as good as it needs to be, but hopefully that's getting better. Anyway, why do I say this? Well, some of you may know through friends or family that COVID has had some bad impact on the world economy and even in the Taiwan economy. Can any of you point to maybe an example where COVID-19 has hurt the economy in Taiwan? Any of you have any ideas about that or experience with that?
Tourist industry.
I couldn't hear that. Can you say that again louder?
Tourist industry.
Tourism.
Tourism.
Yes, very good. Okay, very good answer. I can tell you personally, I just came back from a vacation about 1 week going around Taiwan. And it's hurt Taiwan, it's hurt many areas of Taiwan, but in fact, and this is the interesting thing, with many things that bring harm, they also bring help. It just depends who you are and what side of the thing. Okay, for example, if your tourism was going out of Taiwan, that's pretty dead. And if your tourism was bringing people into Taipei and maybe Taichung and Kaohsiung, maybe that's not doing so great either. But if your tourism was bringing people to Yilan and Hualien and Taitung and Kandy, whoa, baby, you're making big bucks. Because obviously, these areas that were hurt, there's no business going there, and Taiwanese people either can't leave or don't want to leave. If you can leave, why would you say, maybe I don't want to leave? What happens when you come back? If you leave Taiwan and you come back to Taiwan, what do you need to do? Quarantine, and for how long?
For 30 days.
No, it's actually, well, they say 2 weeks, but it's like 15 days. It's a long time, okay? If you need to go back to school or go back to work, maybe you can't afford to do that. So you say, hey, I have time off, I'm going crazy in the house, I want to go out and have fun. Where do you go? Go to Hualien or go to Taitung or go to Kandy, somewhere like that. And so these areas have all done very well this year because of all the local, all the people that would normally travel overseas or maybe go other places in Taiwan are all going there. So you can see how in any kind of serious situation where there's some major impact, in some cases people will be hurt, and nobody likes to get hurt, but it happens. That's just technology and how it goes. And in other cases, people will have new opportunity and make a lot of money or more money. So you can see, how in this example, the tourism industry was impacted a lot in some ways, but locally in these certain areas, they've also been impacted, but in a very good way. So there are other industries like that as well. I can give you another example. I'm sure a lot of you have an idea about the relations because of politics. There's been like a trade war of sorts going on between China and Taiwan, right? So again, if there's a trade war going on between China and Taiwan, there's both good and bad things about that for Taiwan, right? Because some of the businesses in China were owned by Taiwanese people. Is that true? I mean, Taiwanese companies. Some very big ones. So, but what's happened is now a lot of those Taiwanese companies, because of things changing, are moving back to Taiwan, investing more in Taiwan. So now there's new opportunities for Taiwanese people in Taiwan because, companies are coming back here, more jobs are gonna be available here, right? Also, too, because of some of the political situations and also, COVID-19 has become a very political thing. Even in your language, originally when your government talked about COVID-19, what did it call it? Wuhan Feiyan, right? So I mean, that's kind of a political name because obviously, where is Wuhan? It's not in Taiwan, is it? Right? So it makes you think of this disease and it's a place in China. Oh, So obviously, even like our President Trump, a lot of times will say the Chinese plague or the Chinese illness or the Chinese sickness. And so, but whatever it is, the reality is a lot of orders that were originally going to China, a big dollar amount, I think over 36 billion US, which is like, we talk about numbers because we have a different system, so it's like, if I say 36 billion, who can tell me 36 billion in Chinese? I can't hear what you're saying. Let me help you just to make sure we're communicating. So I think 36 billion US, if we say it in Chinese, I think it would be 360亿 美金.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a lot of money. That's more money than I have in my pocket right now. But you can see that's a big opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of companies in Taiwan that don't even make that in a lifetime. So if you look at a lot of medium-sized companies and smaller companies and that kind of a number, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of jobs, and a lot of business that can be done, which now because of COVID and some of the political things is actually coming back to Taiwan. Because for a long time, with Chinese labor being very, very plentiful and very inexpensive, a lot of orders left Taiwan and moved to China. Well, now some are actually coming back because of this situation. So, how many of you have a plan to go into international trade-related business after you graduate? Anybody here? So what do you think you're going to do? So what's your name? This boy next to Dan in the black.
My name's Daniel.
Daniel.
Daniel. Okay, another Dan. Daniel. Okay. So Daniel, what do you think you would like to do?
Maybe I will start as the most basic employee in the trading company. Yeah, that's my plan.
Okay, so would you look for a job here in Taichung, or would you think about going up to Taipei?
Maybe I'll back to my hometown, Taoyuan.
Oh, okay, so up north. So I mean, yeah, and actually now, the transportation system is so good up north.
Yeah.
Living in Taipei, living in Taoyuan. I mean, I know it's not the same, but it's a lot closer than what it used to be. So it's really easy to move around. And there's also a lot of businesses going in at Taoyuan that were, maybe like originally that were in Hsinchu, that were high-tech related, but there's no more land available, so a lot of businesses are up in Taoyuan now, so there's probably some good opportunities up there. Good, and I wish you good luck on that. Anyone else have any ideas about what you're gonna do after you graduate?
Eric.
No. So no one else wants to do any training related work, is there? No? Okay, well.
Is there anyone here that's from a manufacturing family, that your family has some kind of a manufacturing business?
Okay,
No?
Okay.
So you can see a big change in the times, because if I asked that same question 20 years ago, probably most of your hands would go up. But now obviously times are changing, it's a lot more service and office work than actual manufacturing work.
It's interesting, my nighttime students, almost all of them are from like a manufacturing, small business, family sort of thing. And I think that's why they are my night students, because they work for the family business during the day and they take courses at night. But
That makes sense.
yeah, but most of the daytime students, they're just super rich. So.
Yeah. He just like, well, the Taiwan. So, anyhow, well, that's good. So, what this particular class is which class? What subject?
This is actually international trade. That's the name of the course. I was wondering, do you think we can talk a little bit about how the elections in the U.S. might influence international trade in the coming months or years, or do you think that's too political for such a...
Well, of course, it's very political. I don't think that's not the problem. The problem is because it's so unclear. I mean, because, you know, first of all, we don't really know what Biden really thinks yet because he hasn't really talked a lot about that. We have a pretty good idea what Trump thinks, but, you know, I think someone said something about President Trump the other day, which is very accurate. President Trump hasn't been so busy being president. He's been busy working on getting reelected as president almost from the first day he became president. So once he gets elected, you know, I don't know if his China position stays the same or if it changes, or if Joe Biden becoming president, does he have a different you know, feeling about China. A lot of people think he does and would probably be more lenient. But I think what it really comes down to is that regardless of what happens, you just need to be flexible and look for opportunities and try to adapt to them. And with, you know, nobody expected COVID-19. Nobody expected all of these people being out of work, a lot of businesses shutting down. Let me give you one practical example. One of my oldest customers that I've been servicing from here in Taiwan for about 25, 26 years, initially when COVID happened, he had to shut down his business because he's got a small factory and we provide him with some parts. And he had to go and appeal to the local government and prove to them that, hey, you know, we're important as a business. You know, we need to be open because we have people that we're employing and we manufacture things, so we're not a service business. It's important for our product to get out. So he was actually shut down for a few weeks in the early COVID impact. Well, obviously that impacted him and also impacted me as one of his suppliers. And so just even the right to work and the right to be open is a political problem. So there's so much that's up in the air right now because of, well, you know, COVID is still going on, so people aren't even able to talk about, well, how about after COVID, because it's not after COVID yet, okay? Whereas like here, obviously in Taiwan, once the summertime came around, a lot of the masks started coming off. You know, even though people, they're used to wearing them and know they probably should, well, now it's hot and it's uncomfortable, and basically in Taiwan, everyone knows that COVID is pretty well under control, the masks start coming off, okay? And so, but here we are, you know, the transportation situation is still, the quarantine ruling is still in effect. You cannot come to Taiwan from all countries necessarily, and if you do, you know, there's still an issue of quarantine, etc. So obviously that's going to have impact. So yeah, there's a lot of different things. Obviously, you know, I think people in the United States can come here, you know, but again, it's like, here's another situation where there might be opportunity. I'm trying to take advantage of that. Because, okay, for example, the main sales model of most Taiwanese trading companies or Taiwanese manufacturers is you go to the big show, probably one in America, you know, one in Europe, maybe one in China, but you know, obviously for the West, you know, America and Europe are the two big shows, okay? And you're gonna go there. Every year you'll go there, you'll take a booth, spend a lot of money, have your salespeople go, or you know, if you're the boss, small company, you go, one or two people. Well, guess what? All of these trade expos, overnight, they stopped existing, they stopped. Why? Because of COVID. I mean, people are not allowed to have these shows, or not, you know, maybe they're not allowed to travel. So what are you gonna do? If you have a factory here in Taiwan, or you represent or sell for a factory here in Taiwan, are you gonna give up business? because you can't get on an airplane? No, so you have to come up with some idea, like look what we're doing, how are we communicating? Okay, so now, one business that's out there is instead of, you know, because the shows don't exist, well, how about you be the show? How about you make the show happen? You get involved in providing this information, either yourself, for yourself, or representing a company, so that they can have the necessary communication with the market so the business can continue. So you can do maybe a webinar, okay? You know, with these people, do it by Zoom or do it by StreamYard or whatever other online communication tool that exists. And that's what's happening more and more because, you know, it's not convenient for people to come to Taiwan. It's not convenient for people from Taiwan to go there. But with this medium, with this online communication, everything is convenient. So there's definitely another market, another opportunity that COVID has created. It's just a matter of, do you see it? What are you going to do about it? Are you doing something about it? I mean, this is a beautiful thing about the internet and tools. I mean, it's very democratic. It really levels the playing field. So you don't need to be, I mean, obviously big corporations make these tools like Google and Microsoft and Facebook, etc. But you don't have to be a big corporation to use them. And if you look at YouTube, you don't have to be a big corporation or even a genius to be really good at doing YouTube and using and making media. So I really want to encourage everyone here, keep an open mind and don't get the idea, oh, I'm not some big company guy, I'm not a graduate from Taiwan University, I'm not a rich kid or whatever. If you're willing to try and you're willing to do and work hard and take a chance of using some creative energy, you can get something done. How much? I cannot say, but it's up to you. I mean, I want you to know in life, you know, what we think is the ceiling above us, okay, that ceiling that's in your room, that's not the real ceiling. The ceiling, the limit in life is really in us, not with other people, it's within us. I just want to encourage you guys, look at what's going on. If you have an idea, don't worry about what everyone else will say. I mean, you can talk to people and get feedback, sure, that's good, but try it. It doesn't cost really anything, you know, to get online and send out an email or, you know, get on, you know, Reddit or some social media site or whatever and try your idea out. And some of you will be surprised. I mean, how many of you know that one of the guys that started YouTube is Taiwanese? You know that? Some of you know that. I mean, he was probably just some young student with a crazy idea, you know, before he was involved with Google, before Google bought his company or his idea, he was just like you guys, a young student that just had an idea and maybe his friends, oh, you're crazy, or maybe he even thought maybe I'm crazy. And how crazy is he now? He's a rich guy now, okay? I mean, he sold his idea to a huge company, and actually YouTube is the biggest platform for online video media that there is. Okay. Well, my schedule is a little bit tight. Is there anyone else that has a question before I get going here?
I think that maybe one last thing really quick. I think that when it comes to international trade, it's going to basically come down to which countries choose to stay open and which are going to lock down. Obviously, there's a lot of countries that not so much for health reasons, but more for political reasons. They want to lock down. That hurts businesses, that hurts people, that hurts everybody. I don't think locking down is actually going to save people's lives. It seems like it's more detrimental rather than beneficial. But what's your take on this, Mark, before you go?
Well, you know, sure, you know, without a doubt, open is better than closed, and you know, semi-open is better than more closed. But I guess to answer your question, I'll answer it in a different way, and the way I'll choose to answer it is, there's a saying, okay, and that saying is, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Okay, lemons are very sour. Okay. And most people have a hard time just taking a lemon and eating it like you would eat an apple or eat a mango, okay? But if that's all you have, don't throw it away and say, oh, it's sour, I can't use it. Think of a way to take that challenge and work with that challenge and make it better. Now granted, it might not be as popular as people eating mango or pineapple, but it's a whole lot better than throwing it away and people just going, ooh, that's so sour, I don't want it. You've made something that they can use and you're making money and you're growing, you're adapting. So with the problem that Teacher Dan just mentioned, sure, and we don't have any control over that. Everybody likes it easy, but think of it too. When it's easy, you're not so challenged and you don't come up with as good ideas because you're just too busy doing the easy stuff, everyone's busy. When things are hard, that's where people tend to have to, come up with better ideas and maybe come up with ideas that transform an industry, that bring about a new technology, that bring about a disruption. So like getting back to our friend, I think his name is Sun, the Taiwanese guy that was one of the YouTube partners, maybe that's what happened with him. It was just like, hey, there's a real challenge. I don't know his full story. But obviously, he overcame challenges and became very successful. And even though a lot of us don't know his name, we certainly know his product, YouTube. Everybody in the world that has electricity or a computer knows YouTube. So.
Well, thank you very
Anything
much,
else?
Mark. Any other questions? Well, I think we're going to have you come in and actually to see you face to face, and we can talk.
That'd be great.
So I'm planning to invite Mark to actually come and give us a nice 2-hour lecture rather than just 45 minutes. So keep that in mind, and thank you again, Mark, for joining us. This was just
You're
kind of
quite
like a pre.
Nice to meet you, everybody. Keep the ideas coming.
Yeah.
Don't be shy about ideas. They can only help you, never hurt you.